welcome back to SFL HQ with Mike St. Green. I'm Cameron Irvine, and this is SFL This Week, Season 23, Week 11 edition. Mike, just 4 weeks left in the regular season after this one, and in solidarity with coaches, I'm getting gray in my beard because we had 3 overtime games in 1 week. Mike, it was nuts out there.
Yeah, Cam, I'm super excited to be here tonight to get to talk about the action over the weekend. It was probably the most exciting and competitive weekend that we've had all season long, and I'm super stoked to talk about it. Yeah, and I think one grade may have extra sprouted in after what was already here over the weekend.
Yeah, I sprayed mine this way. It was a look by choice, Mike. But hey, you'll have your moment in the sun later in the show. I'll give you the floor. Yeah.
I wonder what he could be speaking of.
Later on in the show, we'll talk about the updated playoff picture. Look, we got Arizona and Florida tonight. Man, what a game. Either Arizona's going to drop their second straight and give up sole possession of first place to Canton, or Arizona's going to take first place in the SFL back from Canton with a victory. That would send Florida to 3 straight losses and barely clinging to what may be the most exciting division race in SFL history, or Florida will take care of business and keep themselves in elite company in the top 4 of the standings, where they have made a home of things in the new 4K23 era. The back-to-back defending champions trying to take care of business tonight at home. It's red alert. They're in red, so you know they mean business. So that's Arizona and Florida coming up later in the show. But we start our show from a big upset on Friday night, and the Carolina Skyhawks are back in the news as Tristan Hatley set the tone. First play of the game at Baltimore with the interception. Carolina 0-4 on the road this season. Baltimore 4-0 at home. This is Shravan Prasad just before the end of the first half with a 10-7 lead, getting that pick. Then a draw play to Riley Quintero gives Carolina a 17-7 advantage. Before we can even hit the halftime break, Jack Wigmore throws another pick. This one picked off by Danny Stinson. He takes that back into manageable scoring position. Carolina has all 3 timeouts. They have a chance to pad their lead. Matt South, dime. Chris Curtis right in between the linebacker and the safety. 24-7 Carolina. Matt South now rolling on 3rd and long. Christian Bacigalupi when Carolina needed a conversion early in the 4th quarter, just outside of field goal range. 31-14, forget your field goal. Baltimore tried to come back in this one. Jack Wigmore flips it out to Warren Murray. Murray drags Tristan Hatley into the end zone for the score, 31-21, but too little too late. The onside kick doesn't work, and then Matt South makes a ridiculous play off a broken play to get into the end zone. The sideline cannot believe it. Carolina wins this one 38-21 on that doozy of a run.
Yeah, Cam, this is like one of those things where a team has another team's number. Doesn't matter what the records are. And Carolina, they just seem to have Baltimore's number over the past few seasons. They whenever they meet the Vultures, they seem to come up big, whether it's at home or on the road. But it was really surprising to see this pretty much dominant performance that they had over Baltimore in Baltimore this past weekend.
Christian Bacigalupi in the chat already chirping. Upset, yes, Jack Stata said you were an underdog. If you want to get mad at the upset, then talk to Jack Stata. See, this is how I'm not culpable. Anyway, Christian Bacigalupi had plenty to say, and fortunately, he was able to join Ashley Jackson on this week's PGI. Can't wait to see how he celebrated Carolina's victory. Take it away, Ashley.
Welcome back to PGI, where I am joined with a great friend of mine, Mr. Christian Bacigalupi. One day, man. One day. Wide receiver for the Carolina Skyhawks just came off a I mean, a dominant, fantastic,
Huge.
incredible performance, right? For
Yeah.
against the Baltimore Vultures, winning 48-28. I'm sorry, 45-28.
Yeah.
Bro, what's going through your mind right now?
I'm really happy that our offense actually capitalized on turnovers because we've had a little issue with that. And on top of that, I mean, being from Maryland, playing a team from your home state, that's always kind of a big deal. And I was able to show out, like, you don't just want to beat them, you want to be a star of the game. And, I have TD, a few catches. They didn't kick me the ball and they didn't kick offs, but, that's what it is. No one's kicking me the ball anymore.
I mean, they didn't have to. I mean, because even in this one, you were targeted 5 times. You caught 3 of them, and you actually had a touchdown. So, when you did get your touchdown for this game against Baltimore, like, how did that feel against, former champions?
Oh, it felt great. Like, we kind of, every time I played Baltimore, my team's never expected to beat them, and we do. I think it's only happened twice, but even still, like, it's always a little extra when you're not predicted to win. You know what I mean?
Right. But does that wear on your psyche as a team a little bit when you go into a performance, during the week that, you probably already having some self-doubt? Perhaps. I'm not trying to speak on anything like that, but maybe you may perceive this team as being one of your bar raisers, right? And
Right.
you have basically all these people said, nah, I don't think they're gonna do it. Like, how does it make you guys feel as a team?
No one likes being doubted. But like, you can't deny though that, like, even when we had a big lead, we're still like, oh, we can't give this up. They still got a lot of time. If this and this happens, we're in trouble. Like, we were one pick away from that game turning around really quick. So, and since it's Baltimore, we knew that's very possible. But fortunately, we kept safe with the ball, and we were able to take 5 from them and converted on 3 or 4 of those. So,
I mean, indeed. I mean, guys like Tristan Hadley having 2 interceptions, Danny Stinson, outside linebacker, having 1, and Ibari having
Hero.
1 as well. Y'all guys were all over the field. I mean, it seemed like Carolina had the answer for Baltimore this game, and with minimal mistakes, actually no mistakes. So that's even better. So
yeah.
Awesome job. Kudos to you guys for your win. Now, how do you feel things will be for your next opponents, though? It's not going to get easier for you guys.
Well, they're all games we feel like we can win. Like, it's not like we're walking into Baltimore or Florida and have that self-doubt. We're very confident that we can win these games, and with the win over Baltimore, we also have a little room. There's a little less pressure because we could probably afford to lose 1 of the 3. So that's not what we want to do. We want to win all 3 of them and win them big. But having a little bit of room for error takes some stress off.
Oh, I'm muted. There you go. There's my first mistake. Y'all can roast me for that. But Christian Bachkalupi's been great in the last month. The first month of the season was a little quiet, but he's been a part of this resurged Carolina offense. This was the first time that Carolina in the Skyhawks era, Mike, had scored 45 points or more on the road. And they did it at Baltimore. Is their time now, Mike? Because this team is surging.
Well, Cam, if it's not now, my question is when will be their time? Because they have been this enigma of a franchise and a team for several seasons. Stuck in that 500 range. So now here you are, 5-4, headed down the last stretch of the season, last quarter of the season. Now you're supposed to take advantage of that. You're supposed to say, hey, our time is now. It's time for us to finally take that step forward, put us, seal on this league and in this division and say, hey, we're here and we're ready to compete.
They're going to be taking on another team who kind of feels the same way, Mike. Next week in
Mm-hmm.
Charleston, they are a game ahead of them in the standings, big rivalry game, the Corbin Cup. And I think Charleston kind of feels the same way. More on them a little bit later in the show, but their time could be now as well. They're playing some good football. All right, let's get back to the highlights. Let's go to Minnesota, where the Minnesota Legend hosted division rival Lexington. Johnny Reno was firing early in the second quarter to T. DeQueen for the touchdown. Minnesota takes a 7-0 lead. Watch this play, Mike. One of the craziest plays in SFL. Boom! The punter got smacked, roughing the punter. I think that's the first time in SFL history we had roughing the punter, and that was big because that kept the drive alive for Lexington. They'd end up getting a field goal on that drive, and that got them some momentum. But they could not stop this Minnesota defensive line. 7 sacks for the Minnesota Legend in this one. Down 13-6, Lexington on 3rd and long, tries to get it over to Alex West, and then Minnesota commits a dumb penalty of their own. That kept this drive alive.
And that looked a little questionable to me, Cam, as far as the PI was concerned, but Lexington took advantage of it and put up the tying score.
And they took advantage of that brain fart from Minnesota. That forced overtime. 13-13 on a DJ Bandit touchdown. 3rd and 5. They go only for 4 yards. Short of the sticks, they got to punt it away to Minnesota. And on 3rd down and 11, Johnny Reno fires, and there's another flag. A pass interference kept this drive alive. Lexington just kind of fell apart there at the end. DeQueen with another terrific catch inside the 5-yard line, and that brought out Mickey Malillo, who missed his first field goal attempt in this game, which if he would have made that, we wouldn't have even been into overtime, but he redeems himself and gets the victory. 16-13, Minnesota holds on in overtime to beat the Lexington Miners and improve to 7-2. Lexington on a bye next week. They fall to 5-5, and they slip outside of the top 12.
Well, Lexington could really use that week off, Cam. I know the entire league were coming off of a week off a couple of weeks ago, but it seems like Lexington, they've just been in that grind all season long without it. Obviously they're one of the few teams with 10 games played thus far. So I just go back, regroup, and see what you can come up with these past couple of weeks. But Minnesota, what stands out to me is that they can beat you in so many different ways. This week we saw the defensive line step up and just constantly pressure that Lexington offense and the quarterback, and got to him 7 times, as you mentioned. But one thing that's kind of concerning me a little bit with Minnesota is that they're not putting points on the board. They have a great quarterback, great running game, a slew of great receivers, but they're not putting points on the board the past couple of weeks. That may come back to bite them later on once we hit the playoffs.
Minnesota's a great team. They are a championship contender. But I'm with you, Mike. The last couple of weeks, it's almost like they don't know who they want to be inside the 20-yard line. Is this a Colin Hart MVP type season? Or is this Johnny Reno's show to spread the ball around to all their talent through the air? Both are great options, but it kind of seems like they're not exactly sure. But you know who is sure in his solidarity with the Minnesota Legend? That is Mickey Malillo, and he joined Ashley on this week's PGI.
Welcome back to PGI, where I'm joined with a good friend of mine, Mr. Mickey Malillo, kicker for the Minnesota Legends, just coming off another exciting overtime victory, I should say. Oh, man, I mean, what's up with this overtime? Second one of the week, man. What's going on?
I don't know. I mean, those block of games, it was overtime galore. We had the overtime winner with a field goal. The other game had an overtime winner with a field goal. It was just that block of games, that early block on Saturday was just a great set of games, and it just was exciting from beginning to end.
Indeed, indeed. And there were some all-star performances definitely on the Minnesota side of the ball. I mean, with Angela and Chloe, Meerkats, the mother and daughter team going and slaying, racking up some sacks, 3 between the two. Then you got Max Knight getting 4 by himself. I'm like, come on, Max, leave something for somebody else, So what are your thoughts on how well your team did this game?
Oh, I can't say anything but great things about my team, just in general. You talked about Angela and Chloe, and great job, Chloe, an undrafted free agent there. This game, she had 2 sacks. You mentioned that. She also had she had the 2 tackles for loss, but she also had another few sacks in our last game. And of course, Max, when you got Max Knight, you're going to go nighty night when he's on the defensive line. 4 sacks in this game. But I got to talk about T the Queen. She is one of my favorite people. We got drafted in the same class in season 19. T the Queen going 9 for 117 yards and picking up a touchdown for us. I mean, she was huge for us. She was absolutely huge. She picked up the only touchdown in the game. So my team, Minnesota Legend, we haven't let off the gas pedal since last year. We are looking for that championship this year.
No, right then, I definitely agree with you on T, the Queen. She really is a queen, and she did her thing that game. So what do you think are going to be some areas of improvements that Minnesota would be needing to make for next game?
We got a tough game next week. We got a very tough game. So I think what we have to do is we have a 1-2 combo in our running back game. We have Colin Hart, who is just a future Hall of Famer all in itself. But we got Isaac Knox, who has just been knocking out of the ballpark this year, this season. He's just been great. I think what we have to do is we have to focus not only on our running game, we have to focus on our passing game as well. Johnny's doing great behind the center, but we have to get the ball into other receiver hands. And he tried. He absolutely tried. But out of the 14 completions that he had, 9 were to T the Queen, 2 were to Colin Hart, and then 1 each to 3 other receivers. So we need to spread the ball around in the air as much as we have the 2-headed monster in the backfield.
Indeed. Versatility wins games all day long. So I do wish, Minnesota the best the rest of the season. Of course, unless you come our way. But
Ashley, we were division rivals last year. Then with the restructure, we're no longer division rivals. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in the playoffs.
Let's bring it. It's gonna give them a good show either way.
Your arm, my leg is going to be the show of the century.
Indeed. Indeed. Thank you, Mickey, for your time. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Ashley.
Anytime. Back to you in the booth.
Thanks, Ashley, and back to the highlights. Atlanta, Nashville, as the Nashville Tempo got off to a great start. Jimmy Foster in the end zone makes it 7-3, but Fox Highwind takes the top off the defense here, and the Tempo are down just like that, 10-7. Mike, the second half was brutal for this offense. Foster dropped that pass. They had hardly any yards. You see right there, 3 first downs in the third quarter combined for the whole game. Late in the game, they finally got it going. 19-14 Guy Clausen with the touchdown, but too little too late for Nashville. Thanks to this, Sammy Steele, 5 for 5, including 2 50-yarders, 22-14. Atlanta gets the win, 4th and 9. It was not enough for Nashville. Moose Papineau knocks it away. There was not a lot of offense in this game from Nashville. Atlanta did not have a ton of explosive plays. The Fox Highwind touchdown, but they were just really efficient. Bryant Dynasty continues to play very underrated season, and Atlanta's 6-4. It's crazy. They'd come out of nowhere.
And Quana Shine also had a huge game.
Yeah.
all game long in this game. Cam, it seemed like whenever a play needed to be made defensively, he was always there, getting a hand in, a sack here, a huge tackle. A great game from Shine. The veteran stepped up huge for this defense in the end. Bryant Dynasty, once again, we're talking about this guy having an MVP type season. I remember all the way back when Dynasty was a rookie, and one of his first games, the performance that he put on then, we're starting to see that continue now after a couple of down seasons for him. We're starting to see Dynasty be the quarterback that I always expected him to be from season one. And he did a great job, as you mentioned, efficient. And we saw Fox Highway make plays. We saw Boo Chisholm make some huge catches. Arnott Arlette made some great catches in this game. We saw a little bit from BDG, just a great performance all the way around. And Atlanta, at this point, Cam, in my book, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Shout out to Siege Falco and his coaching staff. I mean, they endured the 2-game suspension. They took it on the chin. They took accountability. They accepted their fate. They split their games without being able to put in a custom game plan. They have heard us talk on this show and probably other shows that they can't win the big ones. They can't beat teams over 500. They always put together a resume that's got a low SOV. They go on the road. They beat a team above 500. They win a division game for the second straight week. They're right in the thick of things. And, Fox Highwind and that group has kept the locker room together. Of course, they lost some pieces when Albuquerque became a team, and Albuquerque's doing well in their own right. I think if Atlanta would have been polled at the start of the season, the vast majority of people would say that they were not a playoff team. And barring some sort of collapse here, Mike, I think Atlanta looks like a playoff team right now.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. If you would have polled most of the SFL to start the season, they would have said, this team would be on the outside looking in. But as you mentioned, playing teams above 500. But at the end of the day, that's for power rankings and what people think about you. You play who's in front of you.
Right.
You don't get to control what the other team's record is going in, and they've just done a good job of playing who's in front of them, and they've been taking care of business.
So Atlanta gets to 6-4. We'll see where they end up in the playoff standings, and we understand, especially in a week that's very busy with football, 12 games in the SFL, 100 games in college, probably more, depending upon how far you want to go down that rabbit hole. The NFL's back up. There's a lot of football out there to watch. Maybe it wasn't atop your priority list to watch the Chicago Warriors 1-7 versus the 2-6 Motor City V8s. Maybe that wasn't your cup of tea, and you weren't going to be treated to a great game. Well, you missed out, and that's why we're here to help you out. Chicago Motor City, epic from Detroit. Type attack to Ryan Arlovsky. 3 touchdowns in this game. Over 100 yards, career highs all around for him. King Jackson to Terrell Cooper when Motor City was down 20-7 just before the half. Cooper over 100 yards, 3 touchdowns. Career highs all around for Terrell Cooper. Ensuing kickoff for Chicago. On the return, boom! Fumble. Motor City picks up the ball and has it in great field position at the 39. King Jackson almost looked like the same play. Touchdown Terrell Cooper, and Motor City erases a 13-point deficit, takes a 1-point lead. Now Motor City's up 11. Flag on the play on a big 3rd down. Fullerton makes the catch. It's defensive holding. Motor City, Mike, this whole game was getting flagged for all sorts of stuff. They just could not stop. Type attack. Are you kidding me? Arlovsky touchdown. This pass was sick.
Cam, that was probably the play of the season right there. You see him, he gets hit on this play, kind of sidesteps the defender, composes himself, and shoots a dart right there to Arlovsky for a huge touchdown.
And that was a difficult throw even still. 4th and 5. Now Motor City, who was up 11, down 3. Gotta have it. Pass is caught. Look who it is. Terrell Cooper again. Drive stays alive. 3rd down inside 10 seconds. Again, Terrell Cooper. Just a massive game in this one. 6 seconds left. Motor City avoids the turnover. Late down in the game, should you go for the win, go for the tie? They ended up running out of time. You got to kick the field goal. A 14-play, 2-minute drive ties the game 34-34. Then Type Attack does this whoopsie-doo. Outside the pocket, he's gone, gets them into field goal range to set up their kicker for the game winner. This game was bananas.
It was the most exciting game of the season, Cam, hands down, without a doubt. But it goes to show you that even though you're not, quote unquote, in the playoff picture, you still, what do you want to say, auditioning for free agents to say, hey, our organization, we're taking a step forward. We're improving every week. So if I can go off on a small editorial right here, hey, guys, if you're out of it, keep coaching hard, keep scouting hard, keep putting together a solid game plan. Everyone in SFL is technically a free agent at the end of the season. You can move on, you can sign, and players are watching. So put on a performance like Chicago and I keep wanting to say Detroit, Cam, and Motor City put on last night. I actually watched a vast majority of that game, most of the second half. Like I said, it was the most entertaining game of the season, and you saw some great things from both teams. Type Attack had a tremendous game, as we saw him with his feet, made that great play, avoiding the sack with a touchdown pass, over 330 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. A huge game for him, and King Jackson can't take anything away from him. He had almost 400 yards passing himself. Just a great, entertaining game from two teams that we are likely not to see in the playoffs.
Yeah, to your point, Mike, 1-11 is a lot different than 5-7. And that's what Chicago faced. I mean, you're 1-7. You got 4 games left to prove yourself. You're not going to be a playoff team, but you can't go belly up and go 1-11. The whole team loses confidence in you. So, to your point, you have to keep going. You have to keep coaching. It's a shame for Motor City. I mean, they almost had Canton, and Chicago almost had Canton earlier this season. So we saw both those teams play the best of the league at the top of the standings, very close, and then played each other very close today. There's not a lot separating, Mike, sans Queen City. There's not a lot separating the 24th best team and the first best team in the SFL, at least this season.
Yeah, and any given Sunday, right? If a team can put together the right game plan, scheme the right scheme at the right time against the right opponent, anything can happen. As no one expected Denver to beat Arizona last week, and then there we are with Arizona with their first loss, and we can say the same about Florida. Most people expecting them just to roll through the season, undefeated, but it is really tough to go undefeated in this league, and I don't know if it's ever been done. You can remind me of that. I know we've had some teams going to the championship game undefeated. I don't know if anyone's ever finished it off, but it's extremely tough to win in this league week in and week out. And as you mentioned, it's a fine razor's edge from in the playoffs. Are you under 500 and are you at the top of the league?
Yeah, just a couple times ever. It's been a hot minute, but it won't be happening this season, as no team is undefeated. Of course, last season Canton was undefeated, made the championship game, and then Florida was able to pull the upset. That's the second time the Storm have won a title by beating an undefeated team. They did that against the Tallahassee Pride back in season 11. So you just never know, right? You can even be an undefeated Giant and go down at any moment. So great stuff for Motor City and Chicago. It's a shame someone had to lose that game. Chicago breathes a sigh of relief. They pick up their second win. Type Attack over 70 rushing yards in that game as well. That game was just a showstopper. Worth a watch later this week if you're bored at work and want some entertaining football. All right, let's get to another great game that we saw this week. That was Houston and Indianapolis. 3-0 Indy early. This is creative play calling here. 3rd and goal from the half-yard line, and that pass is tossed to Joel Harleman, fullback playing tight end. And then I'll shut up, Mike, because this is your moment.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Mike St. Green. He goes for a return touchdown. His first since season 16, Cam. I think that's my 3rd of my career.
Season 16. Oh my goodness. I had no gray hair back then. Jack Russell picks off OJ Bruin, and from that Mike St. Green touchdown to that is just the roller coaster that has been Houston's season.
At least Jack Russell is a former London Knight.
Yeah, and I saw you chasing him there. I think there was a little point shaving going on because you weren't able to catch him. Johnny Pickler into the end zone trying to put this game away. This was a tie game. In scoring position, Pickler got greedy, and Peace gets the interception. Then in overtime on 3rd and 1, Charlie Baker can't get there. Garrett Evans with the stop, and Houston's defense turns away Indianapolis in overtime, and then O.J. Bruin got it going. Mike St. Green with the one good hand he's got left, all the way to the Indy 30-yard line, and then the sleeping giant veteran Tiberius Bovine, hadn't heard from him all day. He catches this one, and then it got sunny outside. Mike, what a drive.
Yeah, that was a great drive, and as you mentioned, Bovine had been pretty much quiet the whole game, but he showed up huge on this overtime drive, came through with a couple of big catches to keep the chains moving, and we see Sonny J finish it off with a huge field goal and a huge win for the Houston Headhunters.
Sonny J got it, 23-20. Houston gets the win over Indy. More reaction from Mike St. Green coming up, but first, Damon Simeon sat down with AJ.
Welcome back to PGI, where I'm joined with another great friend of mine, Mr. Damon Simeon, head coach as well as co-owner of the Houston Headhunters, just coming off a classic overtime battle. And I know that your heart is still racing, man. So, I mean, from my perspective, watching that game, it looks like both teams kind of had each other's number for a while. It took a long, while to score and get things in motion. So what do you think was a turning point for Houston to kind of get the momentum to going into overtime?
The turning point in that game basically was the interception by John Barnhart. Early in that game, there was a pass thrown, and Barnhart dropped the pursuing interception attempt. And I was in the chat. I was like, "Oh, John, you got to catch that." And then he ended up catching one, later on in the game, and got tackled by an offensive lineman. So in the locker room, we last night, we was basically picking on John for getting tackled by offensive linemen, weigh 350 pounds. but yes, in my opinion, I think that was the momentum shifter and changer for this ball club going into overtime.
What was going through your mind in overtime? Go over that scenario once you saw the clock hit 000. And I saw you in chat, being very vocal about how you thought the game was going. And then all of a sudden, things turn around.
I will have to tell you off air about that. But what was about why I was so vocal. But when I saw 000 going into overtime, I was like, if they get the ball first, we have to stop them. We cannot allow them to march downfield because they have a really great ball club. And if I'm not mistaken, what's the guy, Hunt? Man, he was tearing us a brand new one. He had 7 receptions for 133 yards receiving on 9 targets. That's just one man, who had 133 yards, So we did great versus everyone else, but just allowing that much by Rob Hunt, who basically, told us, hey, you guys got to play better defense. So, but that was going through my mind. We have to stop them no matter what, and we have to get the ball back. So yes, my blood pressure was a little high. My heart was beating really fast. I was like, I may have to retire. I don't know how much of this I can take. My laugh lines are not supposed to be this deep from the SFL, from putting so much stress on my face. So, but no, I had those deep laugh lines for years. So.
No, I get that. Yes. So taking hindsight is 2020. So what is one lesson you learned from this game, and how it played out that you will carry over into your next matchup?
The lesson learned is that the game is never over. I mean, what I'm saying? No matter what the score is going into half, third quarter, or going into fourth quarter, the game is never over. You always have an opportunity to come back and win the game. And, early on in the game, I was like, oh, well, we're going to go for, a fourth loss in a row. not the type of streak that we were wanting here in Houston, but that's what was going through my mind at that time is like, or should I say the lesson learned from this game is that game is not over until the clocks hit triple zeros and your team is up, at the end of the game. So I've always said it in the chats and other games that there's a lot of time left on the clock, but the way we've been playing this season, we just haven't played as a team that look like they can come from behind and steal a game, late into the ball game.
Well, you guys definitely did that. You put on the show. You got another win in your column. And I'm curious to see how Houston will fare for the rest of the season and into the playoffs. So good luck to you, Coach. Good luck to the Houston Headhunters. And see you soon.
Peace.
Thank you, Devon. Thank you, Ashley. About 19 minutes to kick. Arizona and Florida. Mike, this come-from-behind victory saved Houston's season. You're 4-5. You're back in the thick. You still got to win out, but you still got a shot. Big game with Mexico City next Monday night on the Monday Night Spectacular rivalry game. I think it's the 21st meeting all time. It's going to be a feisty atmosphere in Mexico City, but so many players just came up clutch.
And we did win. We did win that game. You just said, right?
After
that interview, I was wondering if we had won or not. I was like, Demond was kind of down for
the Indy
guy
game,
that just won. For a guy that had just won a game. But anyway, this Mexico City rivalry since I've joined Houston has been incredible. I think we've gotten the better of them the last 2 or 3, 4 seasons. I'm not sure of that record. I know maybe at least 3-1 against Mexico City. It's going, as you mentioned, a huge game for us for sure. Mexico City, they're definitely in a better playoff positioning than we are at the moment. And getting back to 500 is the key right now. And if we can play. I want to say turnover-free football. I think we can compete. We have talent enough to compete and beat anybody in this league, but the turnover margin has been too much for us to overcome most games this season. And we saw the other night when we can control that and keep it even. We got a rare turnover ourselves in that game. We're able to put a little pressure on Johnny Pickler as well with the defensive line. And we're able to do that. I think we compete with just about anybody. The South Division has always been tough, and Mexico City's always been right there competing for the title and our championships, and it's going to be a huge game.
When you have a team at the top of the standings at the end of the season, it's not a bad thing. It's an opportunity. And you guys have a great opportunity in front of you. You go 5-5 with a Mexico City win on your resume. That's going to help that SOV. You're right back in the thick of things. There were a lot of teams that had an opportunity to I'm just noticing that all right, I'm good to go. There were a lot of teams that had an opportunity this week to get that type of win over a big-time opponent, but maybe came up short. We got a lot to get to. Let's get to it. Let's start in Fort Worth, where the Fort Worth Toros were hosting the Louisiana Revolution. Ride 'em, Cowboy. Robert Garrett Jr. makes the play. 7-0. Fort Worth's up early. 4th and inches. How about this stop? Gary Clem, that's the best I have seen. Fort Worth's little option play defended this season, 7-6. Louisiana's only down a point, but then Jerry D. Gons messing up more Louisiana drives. And here's another 4th down. How about that adjustment from Marcus Dunhill, making things happen, 13-6. Louisiana's only down 7. That was a bad overthrow, but that was one heck of a catch from Ben Stone.
Yeah, Ben Stone, he's been a staple in that defense for a long time, Cam, coming up huge right there with a big pick at a great time for Fort Worth to give them a great field position.
Here's another look at it. Watch Stone here. Oh, man, I mean, you feel for Tommy Utah there, but that was just a heck of a play. Fort Worth takes care of business, 20-6 on a Marcus Dunhill, quarterback keeper, with just about 3 minutes and change left. Next, we go to Charleston, where Doug Britton was shoving off defenders, getting down the sideline, and going all the way. One of the best kick returners in the league. making things happen and putting Charleston up 7-3 over Bossier City. Creative play here. The tight end playing fullback on a wheel route out of the backfield. Adam Williams with the touchdown. 10-7 Bossier City after a Dave Axis kick return score. Bossier City down 3, 20-17, but Sam Blotner with the interception and Ace Phoenix picks. Very similar to what Houston has been going through this season. Ace Phoenix picks the difference in the wins and losses. Bossier City gets inside the 1, but only gets a field goal. Ian Francis takes care of business, running out the clock, and Charleston gets the victory over Bossier City. Queen City hosting Mexico City late last night, and oh my goodness, Queen City's up 10-0. Jordan Sipe scrambles. Look at the hustle play. That's a ridiculous play there by the Corsairs to force a field goal. Heads up by John Fowler. Sorry, John. A tremendous play. That ball was ruled a fumble, but it never hit the ground, so it ended up being an interception. Then Jordan Sipe hits Jason Bartley for the score to tie the game at 10. Jordan Sipe hurt in the second half, so enter Larry Love, but this play was all Israel Adams. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, great play by Israel Adams, and a couple of spin moves, gets him into the end zone and put Mexico City up by 10.
And they would seal the game, winning 23-10, scoring 23 unanswered points. Canton at Los Angeles. It was all Canton early. Al Dillapre Sr. from Scar Patterson puts the Classics up 7-0. Now up 14-0. Sully Richardson's in some trouble. Unblocked Mike All gets the forced fumble, and then Canton gets the recovery. They would get a field goal out of the drive. 17-0. All Canton. 17-3. Midway through the fourth quarter. Give credit to L.A. They hung around in this game, and they really shut Canton's offense down. 17-10, but you can't have this play in a no-huddle situation, Mike, just running a bunch of curls. That ends up in a pick six for Zachary Hamburger, 24-10, and then on fourth down, Los Angeles trying to make something happen late, and Kanye Rockefeller gets the interception, and that was the end of that. Canton holds on to beat L.A. 24-10. So you saw Canton, Mexico City, Fort Worth, and who was our first? And Charleston taking care of business in that block. They all were the favorites in those games, and they all got the victories. Who are you most comfortable with saying is a championship contender right now, and maybe least comfortable?
I was going to say who I was most impressed with. You kind of caught me off guard.
That's what we can do that too.
Championship contender. But I will go ahead and say I think Canton is the championship contender of that four, simply because their defense is great. But I do have some little flaws. I think that they could, if you could get them in a situation where they're playing from behind, they like to run the ball, they like to pound the ball, they don't like to put it up a lot. So I think if you get them in a situation where you are forcing them to make plays offensively in a comeback situation, they can be had. But I'm just most impressed with Charleston, to be honest with you. They are playing great football, Cam. They've been really good all season long. I mean, Houston, we did beat them earlier, but it was not easy. When Doug Britton was returning that kick, I can remember in the game that we played against him how tough of a runner he is from that return position. It seems like he's a threat to take it back every time he touches the ball. They get great quarterback play from Lakeman. They're keeping him upright. He's not being sacked a lot. That's a complete team. Great job that they're doing over there with their coaching staff, and man, I'm most impressed with Charleston. And as we mentioned earlier, that Carolina-Charleston game next weekend is going to be must-see SFL TV.
Mexico City, that game was so interesting to me. Okay, they're 7-2. Their two losses are to Arizona on the road. They lost their top two defenders, arguably, Max Jackson and Merrick Itera in that game. So they lose both their defenders. Their offense did struggle, but they lost 13-9, right? Then they play Canton in another rugged defensive effort. They were right there with Canton. They end up losing that game 10-7. Those are their only two losses. When you watched them play Queen City last night, they didn't look very good. But when you look at the box score and you look at what they were able to produce, they had over 300 yards of offense. They didn't turn the ball over. They played with a backup quarterback all second half. They were on the road. I know it's a winless team, but there was a lot stacked against them. And Mexico City still shut out Queen City in the second half, only gave up 10 points. They're the league's #1 scoring defense, giving up about 12 points a game. And they just kind of handled it. You know what I mean, Mike? And sometimes Canton's been doing this all season too. Sometimes when you're a championship contender, you just handle it. You know, it's not necessarily going to be pretty every single week. And the fact that Mexico City continues to just handle it down the stretch of this season has been very impressive, because it's not very often that a team goes from not being a regular in the playoffs, at least recently, to a potential championship contender. Usually there's a gap season in there somewhere, but not with this Aztec team right now.
Well, Mexico City, they kind of reminded me of what we were saying about Florida early in the season. They're kind of flying under the radar. They're not doing anything, really spectacular. Oh, wow, well, look at this 200-yard performance from Ray Bentley, or just look at this great 400-yard passing game from Jordan Sipe. They're not doing anything spectacular. They're just doing everything very solidly. As you mentioned, this defense, top scoring defense. They're not making any mistakes on offense and turning the ball over. They're just doing what they need to do. They're lining up, knocking heads, and basically right now what they're 5 or 6 points from being undefeated.
Robert Thump in the chat. My new mantra for next year, and I took that personally all year, every game. Very original, Robert. You're the first person to ever put a chip on their shoulder every time someone doubts them. Come on, man. I know you can do better than that. That's Mike St. Green's like a walking chip. This dude is like chip on his shoulder every time he speaks. Anyway, that's good stuff from all the favorites there. We had a couple of blowouts. Really not a lot this week, but some painful ones. Albuquerque hangs 63 on Pittsburgh and just demoralized the Riverhogs, who are really struggling down the stretch, trying to find some positives in their season. But Albuquerque continues to roll. And then DC, man, talk about a wake-up call. Denver's feeling good after their big upset win against Arizona. DC, a little unsure of themselves. They're at 500. They were in 15th place last week when we were on this show talking about were they going to be able to make it happen because they had a difficult schedule. They just pounded Denver into the sand. That was a bit surprising. Which game shocked you the most?
Probably that DC blowout win over Denver, but maybe they were reading their own press clippings after that game. It's a classic letdown situation after you coming off of a huge win. It's maybe hard to put that grind in 2 weeks in a row, and it was just a tough matchup for them. But DC could be figuring some things out over there. They've looked pretty good over the past couple of weeks, as you mentioned. They're getting back to that 500 range, and but yeah, that was probably the most surprising. But I also have to mention that Albuquerque also. These guys, man, they have been on fire. They have figured some things out in that passing game. That targets all over the place with Corky and Kate Mary, and I almost drew a blank on her. They're just looking great on offense right now.
Remember,
and Cyrus Jive has been spectacular as well.
Remember when Albuquerque went to Baltimore? It was like week 3. And they exploded in the first half. They were scoring all these points on Baltimore, and everyone was looking around going, what in the heck is going on? And at the time, it looked a little fluky, but now that we've seen kind of the whole resume of Albuquerque, this team can beat anybody. I mean, they are just they are playing. They're doing more with less. The coaching staff has done a heck of a job with this roster, and some of their big playmakers, it's almost been like perfect acquisitions, Mike. It feels like Greg Corky's perfect for this team. Kay Marion's perfect for this team. All the Williams brothers and Cyrus Jive and it's just all clicking right now.
And then if you think about the players you just named, these guys were actually big names on the teams that they had previously played for. So it doesn't surprise me at all to see some of these guys that's making plays out. As I mentioned, pretty much several weeks. I'm so happy to see that Greg Corky is getting a real shot at being a number one, number two. I guess he and K Marion are kind of interchangeable with that, but Corky's been coming up huge all season long for Albuquerque. Cyrus Jive had always looked pretty good over there in Portland when he was there, and now getting an opportunity here in Albuquerque. And we know about the Williams brothers, how great that they've been throughout the year. So, hey, good luck with this team if they are able to secure a playoff bid in that first round, whoever's going to meet these guys.
Let's take a look at the, not the highlight. Let's take a look at the playoff picture for Week 11. Here is the updated standings, and this is what it looks like. Mexico City has common games on Minnesota. They are your current 3 seed. If Arizona wins tonight, they will take over that number 1 spot from Canton as their strength of victory is going to go up. Florida is sitting in the 5 spot. Baltimore, Fort Worth, Charleston, no change there from last week as they all sit in a home wild card game playoff situation. But underneath them, that's when things got really interesting. Atlanta is now in the 9 spot. Nashville goes from 9 to 12. Albuquerque goes from 13 to 11. Carolina goes from 14 to 10. So you saw the 3 teams that were down last week. They move up and ascend. DC still scrapping there. They get to the 13 spot with the win over Denver, and then Houston, because of that win over Indy, now re-enters the playoff picture at the 15 spot. There's Lexington at 14 as well. So what sticks out to you is we have 4 weeks left in the regular season.
A couple of matchups that we would be looking at jump out off the page. Really, we just mentioned Albuquerque at Baltimore, and that would be a rematch of that game earlier in the season. I don't know if Baltimore would want to be tested that much in an opening round playoff. And then, man, that Fort Worth and Carolina matchup right now, that looks like that would be a great matchup in the first round. And I was kind of thinking about this earlier today, Cam. You really, for my money, you want to be in that top 4. I mean, obviously everyone can't be there, but when you have to play that extra week of games, that wild card round, it just makes it that much more tougher to reach that championship game or the semifinals. I mean, that's a tough grind that you have to get to and get through in a gauntlet of teams in order to get to that final rung of that ladder, and that's the championship ring.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Mike, who wants to play one more game against some of the best talent in the league? I certainly wouldn't want to if I was a coach or an owner. I want to get that top 4 seed, and it's going to be a fight to the finish. We got Arizona and Florida coming up next. Ron Haynes has us covered with Haynes Vision, breaking down and previewing these matchups. So let's get into it without further ado. Let's look at Arizona first. We start, of course, with Ashley Jackson, who's up to 60% completion percentage this season. She's got 11 touchdown passes, and it feels like, Mike, as she goes, this Scorpion team goes.
Most definitely, Cam, and they've been doing a great job of keeping her upright. I think only 10 sacks given up by Arizona this season, and that is huge in helping with that completion percentage when she can just sit back in the pocket, as we see her right there, survey the field and hit Yayo Montana on a huge gainer.
This is the crazy thing, Mike. 1 touchdown for Yayo Montana this season. That seems impossible. He is their chain mover. 39 receptions this season, averages 68 yards a game. TJ Punk is another weapon. He's only got a couple touchdowns, but believe it or not, he has more catches than Montana. Look at Jackson shaking off the pressure. Punk with 40 grabs through his first 8 games.
TJ Punk, he's been a staple of this offense for several years now, switching over from tight end, moving out, dropping a few pounds, moving out to wide receiver, and he's been amazing since moving out to the wide receiver position.
In the last couple weeks, Brad Jones has cooled off, Mike. I think they're going to need a big game out of him if they want to beat Florida tonight.
No doubt about it, Cam. This is one of the guys that I circled as far as this matchup is concerned. Brad Jones, 578 yards right there. As you mentioned, he's cooled off a little bit, but if Arizona's going to win this game, they are going to have to get this ground game going and keeping that Florida offense off the field.
Rain Rie, put some respect on that name. Look at the pursuit to the football. Smashes Ari Mills there, 45 tackles. That was one of 2 TFLs this season in the backfield.
Rain Rie, good friend of mine. He's been in this league a long time, Cam. I had a conversation with him earlier in the season, and he told me that these guys are going to bring a championship home, and he's been a huge reason as to why these guys are 7-1.
Nathaniel Diggs wrapping up Mosley there to force a 4th down. 45 tackles. 1/3 of his tackles are behind the line of scrimmage. That's almost impossible to do, and an incredible stat there from Diggs. Finally, Hunter Norwood, 3.5 sacks. You know, it's a group effort. The sacks have been down a little bit over the last few weeks as well, but Norwood leads the squad.
You talk about being in this league a long time, Cam, and Hunter Norwood, a long time Tallahassee Pride, Jacksonville King, and now he's been in Arizona a few seasons, and he's bringing a lot of what he had over in that Tallahassee, Jacksonville organization over to Arizona.
The Florida Storm, 2-time defending champions, trying to snap a 2-game losing streak. Ron Cochran is their quarterback, and he is efficient as all get out, 67%.
Yeah, Cam, that is hard to beat a percentage like that. That means these guys are moving the chains on a consistent basis. Probably the 3rd down percentage is high as well. But yeah, and when Ron Cochran is on, this Florida Storm team is hard to stop.
Stephen Bush is Mr. Clutch, man. Every time they need a big play in the red zone, it feels like it's going to Bush. But Art Vandelay is their Swiss Army knife. 432 yards receiving, 175 rushing. He can do it all.
Yeah, we saw this weapon of Art Vandelay unleashed in the championship game last season. He's continued that throughout this season. I won't say this season, this year, but yeah, this season we saw a continuation of that, and you have to key on Art Vandelay if you want to come up with a victory.
We can't sleep on Chris Comisac, 366 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. He's that gnat, Mike, when you're trying to get Florida off the field on 3rd and 2, and you never can because he's got the football.
Yeah, Chris Comisac is huge when this team needs a good grimy yards. Just give it to Comisac, and he can get that couple of 2 or 3 yards for you.
Daniel Wright has been a monster pickup from the Minnesota legend, making plays all over the field. 59 tackles so far this season, 3 picks, 7 pass deflections. He's their Swiss Army knife defensively.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Cam. He's been a huge pickup for this defense, and he's one part of the reason why Florida is still in first place in the East.
Jesus Smith, sometimes you'll often see him in the middle. They actually kind of rotate their linebackers around. He's got 12 TFLs, and, the Florida linebacking core has always been a little bit underrated, but he's making some big plays there. Dallas Knowles, the Alex Dominguez replacement. He has 4 sacks this season on the dev team. He's been a great new project for the Storm.
Yeah, Cam, you talk about some huge shoes to fill, and Dallas Knowles has done a great job in doing that. As you mentioned, 4 sacks on the season, and then a great pickup for Florida as well.
The kickoff is next, Arizona and Florida, but we got to ask Mike St. Green who he's picking. Before we get to it, we've got his spectaculars for Week 11. I know we're running a little behind. Step on it, Mike. Who you got?
The spectacular, Aquana Shine was great. As I mentioned him earlier, he was definitely my defensive spectacular, but the spectacular player of this week is tied to top, over 330 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, over 70 yards rushing. He had a huge game, exciting game, made some key plays throughout that game against Motor City. Type Attack gets my spectacular performance of the week.
Well deserved. He was an absolute monster. Probably the toughest game to pick all season. Arizona, Florida. What's Mike St. Green say?
Damn, I'm 2 games below 500. I gotta get on the ball here.
Say
so,
anything.
I gotta, I always gotta keep it 100 with the people. I think that's what the young kids say. But just keep it in 100. 3 and 5. I gotta get back close to 500 to get over 500 before this thing ends. But both teams coming off of a loss. Florida 2 losses in a row, of course. So this is a big game for both teams. And I know Eddie Gage in Arizona, I know they want to get back on the winning track. But I'm going to go with the home team, Florida, 23-17.
You know, you seem to get, we'll have to look back at this, you seem to get the picks right when the headhunters win. It seems like that's the way it goes. So maybe that's good news.
Well, we have the same record going into this weekend, so hopefully you're correct.
Yeah, so good news for Florida there. Maybe, if that trend continues. If the 3-5 trend continues, watch out, Florida. We're live from the eye momentarily. Charles Doherty, Cameron Irvine, yours truly on the call. We've got our stats crew, Tyler Falk, Chris Curtis here to break it all down. Mike St. Green's going to probably pop a cold beverage and try to fend off old man sleep, and hopefully we get a close game tonight. Arizona and Florida coming up next. This has been SFL This Week. We'll see you next Monday for more SFL action from Week 12. Good night, everybody, and we'll see you in Florida in a matter of moments.